Hey there, hope you're doing really, really well today, and welcome to this podcast episode. We are going to look at, I believe, 5 or 6 comments. We are going to start off on a positive note with 2 people that are reporting better sleep, and then it's going to be kind of heavy on like the sporadic fatal insomnia, people that are really concerned about these extremely, extremely rare conditions. And although, that is, a little bit of the extreme end of things here, I think what we're going to talk about could really be helpful for anyone. So with that said, let's jump right in. And by the way, my usual disclaimer here, and nothing here is medical advice or specific advice to anyone, just general thoughts and comments here that applies to really anyone with a similar problem to the person that is commenting. So first of all, this is a comment on Insomnia Insight number 253, where Mark had written to us and explained that he had this kind of health scare, undiagnosed health condition, and was starting to have trouble sleeping. And what we said was, for somebody in that situation, the most important thing is not to react, not start trying to fix it or try to think about what's happening. And I think it became a pretty good episode, 253. Definitely check it out. But Mark wrote the following 2 days ago. Thank you very much. You're right. I think association between sleep and sleep issues starts to taint the whole process and make it even more difficult. Thankfully, maybe as I am bored of the sleep issue already, I had a better sleep today. That is awesome. Super, super nice to hear that. And Mark describes that kind of bored of the sleep issue already. That's very, very good for Mark, that he wasn't becoming more interested, more curious, more worried, more engaged, more preoccupied. That's the path towards insomnia, becoming bored with it, not interested, backing away from it, not taking up the struggle, not fighting with it. Path towards better sleep. Awesome job, Mark. Hope you sleep better forever. Now, jumping from that to another piece of really good news here. Let's see how I can navigate this. Oh, I might have made a little boo-boo here. You know what? I just realized I can do this on my phone. I was going to read the messages off of my computer screen, but since I'm doing this live here, they are not there. So I'm just going to go to my phone and read them off of my phone. So this is a message from Sheadon, who is from Malawi, and I think I've done at least 2 replies to questions from Sheadon, and I remember how he couldn't really do stimulus control, when you leave the bed and leave the bedroom because of the mosquito carrying malaria there, which is of course a very big concern. But I got this message. So briefly, I can't remember exactly how long Sheadon had trouble sleeping. I'm going to do a specific episode only on Sheadon's story here. It's going to be one of the success stories that is going to go under that playlist. But I just want to share that a message from today. It says, I have some extremely good news. Excited. I was excited when I read that. I have some extremely good news. The last time I spoke to you was 10 days ago when I had a night of bad sleep after a few days of good sleep. The last 10 days, I've had over 7 hours of sleep, except for 2 days, which were 6 hours and 45 minutes. Thank you so much. Your videos and professional advice has been so helpful. The best advice that you gave me was simply not caring about being awake at night, which eased my stress and anxiety and made me fall asleep quicker. I'm going to stop there because I'm going to read the entire thing at some point forward here. But what we can learn, what we really can learn from Sheadon's story, there's probably more than one thing, but we can really learn it's like, when I connected with Sheadon, he started having better sleep, slept better for about 4 days, then had that night where he didn't sleep at all. And then I made this reply saying, like, in that situation, similar to Mark here, don't react, keep moving forward, pretend it's a hiccup, just do whatever you were doing before. Now 10 days sleeping really well for virtually every single day. I believe that Sheadon, if you're listening, Sheadon, that you have reached that point of, almost pretty much like a point of no return, meaning sleep confidence has grown to a point where not only do you believe that you can sleep, you've seen that if you have a sleepless night, you can get back on track by not reacting. And so I'm hopeful that your sleep confidence is that, and I definitely believe your sleep confidence it is at that place where you're going to just do better and better. And if at any point future you have a sleepless night, a couple of sleepless nights, a patch of bad sleep, same thing, don't react, keep moving forward. Great job, Sheadon. Extremely excited about you. And I want to add one more thing here. Sheadon had used Sleepio, which is like a web-based program / app. I think it's mainly developed as a web-based program, which is it's a self-driven program. Somebody told me the other day that he had downloaded Sleepio on his, I think, iPhone, which I've done myself, and you can't access it really unless you're part of a program or something like that. But if you enter that you have a London zip code, you can apparently just do the program. Just sharing that. I heard somebody say if you enter a London zip code, you can use Sleepio. So just sharing that. So now that said, let's move ahead here and actually go to an email. I'm going to open my Safari browser, which is here. And this is an email from Pooja, which came in two days ago. And I have my glasses here. Actually, I'm going to use my glasses. And it reads as follows. Like the title is Sporadic Fatal Insomnia. And it reads as follows. I'm super worried, and know a lot of people think they have this since it comes up when you Google insomnia, and I know it's extremely rare also. I've had insomnia since mid-April, early May of this year, where some nights I would sleep only 2 hours. I've tried multiple medications, Ambien, Trazodone, Benadryl, melatonin, Seroquel, which somewhat worked, but I still felt I never slept. Mirtazapine, Depakote, after I took for a few weeks, ended up in hospital due to sepsis from a cyst on my face. Oh my gosh, I'm really sorry, Pooja. Previously, never even took ibuprofen, super healthy. I had a baby in February this year, and after the baby had frequent PVCs, which is like, that's called palpitations. So they started me on a beta blocker, but then I got off the beta blocker due to a Holter showing less than 1% PVCs. I feel like my insomnia started when I was on a beta blocker, but never resolved. Also, all along, I've been taking 2 milligrams of Ativan at bedtime along with the meds. This helps somewhat. When I did a sleep study in June, the sleep specialist said I went into REM sleep, but lack of slow wave sleep, which she said can happen, and I slept a total of 4 hours. Now I'm taking 2 milligrams of Ativan, 5 milligrams of melatonin, 50 milligrams of amitriptyline, but still don't sleep well. I feel like I'm awake a lot of the time. I even resigned from my job as a pharmacist as I was having a hard time handling things. I'm constantly testing my memory. So scared to go to a neurologist and getting bad news that I have sporadic fatal insomnia. The case I've read, the man started with insomnia. The discovery was made at UFC in Chicago, where I live right now. Even driving my family nuts as they keep saying, you don't have that. Do people complain of muscle aches and burning eyes with insomnia? ? Sorry about the rambling, but my family and I watch your videos and give us some hope of others who feel like me. I know it's a lot of info. Also, I never feel like taking a nap, and I've never been able to take a nap recently, but feel tired all the time. I started to worry about my thalamus after taking my ear temperature, which comes at 99.1 a lot of the time. Also aware that my immune system has been destroyed by my lack of sleep over the last 5 months. Also, prior to all this, I used to sleep through movies and with the lights on, so I've been more scared that I lost my ability to sleep. It's been terrifying since I have 2 kids that are 2 and 7 months old. I'm scared that I'm going to be the next case study. Insomnia has ruined my life. Super, super sorry to hear this. And there's a lot that goes through my mind when I read this. There are a couple of things that I actually wrote down that I think applies really to Pooja's situation, to Daniel's situation, and I'm gonna, you know what? Actually, let's do this talk right now. So insomnia really always is caused by hyperarousal, and hyperarousal is when you're stressed or anxious, but it could be like almost subconscious. You don't even know it, or you can have frank anxiety. You feel that you're anxious. You feel that you're stressed. Okay. important thing with this is, and again, this is not a medical device. Anyone has to check with their doctor, etc., right? But with these extremely rare conditions like sporadic fatal insomnia, which is a prion disease, which, as far as I understand, there's been about 30 recorded cases ever in the history of humanity. Well, of course, we only started recording, in the last years, but still, what I understand is that it's pretty clear that the patient having this, there's something wrong with them. Difficulty with like ataxia, they can't really point properly, or balance problems, something that is obvious. And similarly to, like say, Parkinson's disease, it's pretty obvious when somebody has that. And that, in my mind, is why oftentimes when we see people with those conditions, there's a lack of anxiety because they know what's going on. I think the problem with insomnia is often that the what if it's this, what if it's that, what if this happens, what if I lose my ability to sleep, what if I go crazy, what if I lose my job, what if. The what if is the problem. And why do I bring that up? Well, it's because, in my opinion, what I see is that if somebody had sporadic fatal insomnia, it would be obvious that they had it, and they wouldn't. And I've never seen worrying about sleep as being part of the symptomatology. It's more described as like an objective finding that this person has this neurodegenerating condition, and they're sleeping less. So my point being that if somebody is really, really worried about their sleep, that to me signals that they don't have one of these fatal insomnias, but rather the typical insomnia, the insomnia that's driven by worrying about what if. That's kind of number one thing I want to say. Number two, it's very common for people with insomnia to think that something is wrong with them, meaning something physical, something organic, something structural. And many people describe, I think something's wrong with my brain, something's wrong with my sleep switch, something is wrong with my hormonal system. And now what I think of when I hear somebody say I'm concerned I have sporadic fatal insomnia is that is kind of an extreme version of thinking something is wrong with me. Thinking that you have a condition that is only 30 people in the world had this condition, it signals that you're extremely worried. There's a part of our brains that is that is there to protect us, to make sure we're safe from harm, and that kind of part of our brain is telling us, be mindful of this, keep a lookout for that. And if that kind of part of our brain, really, really is strong, then it might very well say, this is it. You probably have the most rare exotic thing that's going on. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to keep us alert, keep us focused on something that can hurt us. It's really identified sleeplessness as a problem, and it kind of goes all the way to saying you probably have this. So I think that's a little bit why that the thought process of I may have this extremely rare condition comes from a part of our brain that is actually trying to protect us and has identified sleeplessness as a threat. And I think that just kind of thinking about that could in itself be helpful, I feel like. Now, a couple of other things here. There's no test. There's no way to know if you have sporadic fatal insomnia or not. So it pretty much becomes an opinion or a belief, let's call it. I believe I have it, or I believe I don't have it. And where that's important is, I think, to exploring the consequence of a belief. How helpful is it to believe or think that you have sporadic fatal insomnia? That belief really is a dead end because it can never be proven or disproven. So believing that or thinking that is never helpful, versus trying to believe that, no, this is more typical insomnia, the type of insomnia that 5% of the population has. then that belief takes you in a different path. It takes you in the path of, okay, so maybe what helps other people, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, mindfulness-based therapy for insomnia, other like behavioral and educational techniques, is going to help me too. I think that trying to have that belief takes one to a place of like, actually having a foundation and be able to start working towards better sleep. So that was another thing. And I think I covered like the things I wrote down here. Now, another thing in general thing about insomnia is that, the more things we try to fix it, the more reaction we have from the insomnia. Like when we try to do something to fix the insomnia, then that leads to self-monitoring. Then we try and see like, did that work or did it not work? Did it help? Did it not help? And then, we're like, that didn't help. We're going to try this thing when maybe that thing helped me. So kind of like the more things you try, the worse it gets. And like when I read this list of like Amian, Trazodone, Benadryl, Metolone, Seroquel, Mirtazapine, Depakote, I get the sense of somebody that's like kind of desperately trying to find something that works. And that, and both the trying to figure out why I have insomnia and the like trying different things to fix it, both of them are like real sleep killers. Like those really feed insomnia, make it stronger, brings it attention, etc. And another important point here is like when we start giving in, insomnia just wants to take more. Meaning, if we have trouble sleeping and we were up all night, finally fell asleep at 3, we should be up at 7, but we just can't. We slept until 9, then we've given in. Like we are accommodating the insomnia, right? And that gives it more power. We're kind of like accepting that we have to do this. We have to change our lifestyle. We have to change our behavior because we have insomnia. And when we quit a job, that then the insomnia is really taking something big from us. It really has strong power, So as much as possible, as hard as it is, when it comes to insomnia, it's best to try not to negotiate with it. Try not to give it anything. Try not to make any accommodations, if it's like, social interactions at night or like things we like to enjoy during the day or drinking coffee, like try not to give anything to the insomnia. That's generally like really, really good advice. So I hope, was there one more thing? I think that was it. I hope this was helpful, Pooja, and any follow-up questions, please get back to me. Yeah. So with that said, let's move on to actually a question from somebody. Somebody made a comment here on also on Insomnia Insight number 253, and this is somebody that calls herself Cutie Sue on YouTube, who sent me an Instagram message, and I'm gonna read that right now. So Cutie Sue wrote the following Friday. Hello, good night, how are you? My name, I will say Sofia. My name is Sofia, I'm 20 years old, and I discovered your channel a few days ago. I suffer from health anxiety, and to be honest, I'm really scared of fatal insomnia. Yesterday I slept 3 hours, and today I slept 1 hour. I don't even feel like sleeping anymore. I just feel so anxious that I might have it. I feel twitches. I can't stop thinking about it. I would like to ask you some questions, and I was hoping if you could help me with them. Number one, my parents are both alive, and my grandparents from both parts don't seem to have the disease. However, could the mutation be on my family and my family not showing any symptoms of it? Do you have any tips on how to overcome this fear? Should I go to the hospital to check if everything is fine? Thanks so much for your time. Also, I don't know if this is relevant, but I feel really tired when I'm in bed. I feel my eyes wanting to close, but as soon as I wake up, my mind that I'm going to sleep and close my eyes, this sense of anxiety just starts taking care of my whole body. I just feel like throwing up and my belly aches, and I just can't sleep because of it, and I give up. I'm at the point that I'm afraid to sleep. Very, very sorry to hear all this, Sofia. First, so there are a lot of things to talk about here, to comment on. Firstly, let's go to this question number one. So I think Sofia is concerned about something called fatal familial insomnia, where like you have this genetic mutation that causes this like neurodegenerative disease. And by the way, these things should never have been called insomnias, in my opinion. They should be called like, sporadic fatal prion disease or something like that. The world would have been better off if that had happened. But anyway, if it is dominant. So again, nothing is medical advice here, but this is my understanding. I'm just sharing what I understand about this condition is that it's dominant. So if nobody in your family has it, then you don't have it. That's my understanding. And it can't skip generations because it's dominant. So if you have one gene, you get the condition. Number two, do you have any tips on overcoming this fear? Well, I think trying to always be positive. I think one thing that really shines through in this message is health anxiety, fear of losing sleep, and that is a extremely common cause for insomnia, and I think that could shed some light on why somebody has insomnia. So if somebody knows themselves that I'm a very, very anxious person, I'm afraid of losing sleep, again, like that anxiety, in my opinion, actually is evidence of not having like a fatal insomnia or a neurodegenerative disease, but rather that the insomnia is driven by anxiety, which is so extremely common. So, and again, I think a lot of what we said to Pooja applies here too, about like, questioning like what belief is best for me to have, and how helpful is it for me to believe that I have this very, very rare condition versus I have something that's more common. That applies. But I think what I want to talk about here that's most helpful here is the following. From the inside perspective, from somebody that has like develops trouble sleeping, it often seems really bizarre, strange, unusual, right? From somebody like myself who treats patients with insomnia all the time, nothing is a surprise. Nothing is new. I mean, there's nuances that are different from person to person, but you heard everything before. And what I read here, classic, so many things that are just classic insomnia. Obviously the short sleep, the fear of losing sleep, and these like twitches and unable to stop thinking about it. All that's classic, and it's really driven by anxiety and hyperarousal. And very, very common is twitches are super common, muscle aches are common, like this jolt of electric energy when you're about to fall asleep is common. And not to go into too much detail there, but like I think one good way to explain kind of the twitches and jerks and things like that is like to think that you have a nervous system that is like hyper active. Like think of like if you picture a brain and you think of it as like you're going to touch the brain and it goes like it's super reactive, right? So what would be normal movement becomes a jerk. What we wouldn't even notice normally becomes like, oh, I feel that. And I used another analogy the other day, which is like if you have a phone in your pocket, it happens to me all the time. I think I got a message, I check it, there's nothing there because I'm just like programmed or honed in to check for it. So okay, so to get to this question here, like how do you get over the fear of losing sleep? Right? Well, that's really like it's hard to answer that in a quick question because that's really like the root of insomnia. If you're no longer fearing losing sleep, you are very, very unlikely to have any problems whatsoever. If you go back to Mark and Sheadon, both of them expressed that the main reason they did better was like they no longer. Mark said he got bored of his sleep issues, and Sheadon like, I'm not worried about them anymore. And how can you get there? Well, I think one thing that helps a lot of people is knowing that despite what it may feel like, your body regulates sleep. It can only go for so long without sleep. Eventually, you have to sleep. It will kick into sleep. Also good to know is insomnia or short sleep has never been shown to cause any health issues, despite what you hear. Even you go to the most reputable site or book or something like that. it never says insomnia causes it. It always says like insomnia has been linked to this and that, but there's no smoking gun. Nobody's showed that insomnia causes anything. So that's very, very important. No, that can really reduce health anxiety. And one other thing that can really help is kind of like keeping a tab or a diary and like exploring how loss of sleep has affected you. And typically, for most people, of course, if you slept very little, very poorly, you will feel tired and not function as well. But there are many, many other things that affect how we function. So if one can find like evidence of just that one single time where you slept very little and you still felt okay during the day, or you slept, better and you still felt really tired, that is proof that not everything hinges upon sleep. Other things play a role too, and that can be another step towards like overcoming the fear of losing sleep, which is so great. So yeah, Sophia, hope this is helpful to you. Please, send any follow-up questions, Instagram or make a comment here. Yeah. So that said, let's move to a question here. There's another comment from Steve 7220 from 2 days ago. Daniel, and this is also, by the way, a comment on episode 253. Daniel, where can I find you to chat? I need someone, and all my doctors are busy, also does insomnia problems, have long-term effect on brain development and neuron death because lower protein cleanup by the lymphatic system, hence neuron death. Also, there's some studies linking Alzheimer's and in younger years the brain shrinking on MRI. Yeah, I'll say what I just repeated here, that no evidence of causality. It's kind of like my favorite example on this is like the ashtray. Like ashtrays are very, very linked to COPD, but ashtrays do not cause it. There's no causal link. Same thing with insomnia, has not been shown to cause anything. There's a lot of people hinting, suggesting. A lot of people like to get your attention. Nothing gets people's attention more than fear. So be very mindful of that. And in fact, there's an excellent book on the subject here called Why We Don't Sleep, written by Daniel Erickson, myself. It's very short, but I wrote it for the purpose of like sharing this, that there is no evidence that short sleep or insomnia causes anything but, us feeling unwell, like we feel tired and foggy and things like that, but it's no evidence that it causes any health issues. I think that's such an important message that needs to get out there. And in terms of chatting, I don't do like consults, but I love to answer questions here. And I told Steve, that I do have my app, Bedtime with the Y, where I do coaching and I answer questions there, of course. Now that said, I believe there's just one more, actually two more things we should talk about here. And I'm on Instagram, sorry, I'm going to Facebook Messenger here, where we have a message from my namesake, Daniel, who wrote the following on Sunday. Hey, Daniel, just checking in. I'm still very light. I still sleep very light, always dreaming. This has been going on for months now, which makes me believe it will never go away. Just started 1 week out of nowhere, and I don't think I ever reach deep sleep because I'm constantly waking up every hour. So I'm still awaiting the results of my sleep study. I know it could be hyperactivity, but it just started out of nowhere. I read this could be some kind of brain damage because I'm also having the myoclonus jerks at sleep onset. Does anyone else suffer from these vivid dreams and light sleep on the channel? Also, have you ever heard of this guy situation? I never took that antibiotic, but I've used alcohol and prescription payments around the time I started. Could this be what's happening? And then there are two links to, kind of fatal insomnia type videos on YouTube, which I have not looked at because of the following, that going back to actually what we talked about with Pooja here, the belief or like the search for the search for why we have insomnia is such a sleep killer. When we try to figure out why is this happening, could it be this, could it be that, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, that in itself just feeds the insomnia, gives it more attention, it takes a bigger part of our lives. So like a sleep detox is really, really a good thing. Like I talk about this in one of the episodes here. Sleep detox is when you like decide, okay, for a week, for 2 weeks, something like that, I'm not going to read anything about sleep. I'm completely going to tune out from that, just focus on other things in my life. That could be a really good thing. And I feel like for somebody that, like, if you understand like the concept of like why spending less time in bed helps, and kind of the basic cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, then that's good. But what's even more important from getting over insomnia is shifting attention away from it. Don't think about it, and you can't decide what to think about. So it really becomes a game of like finding something else that keeps you preoccupied. If you like baking, then start baking. If you like playing the trombone, learn to play the trombone, hang out with your friends, like try to really get busy, engage with other people, do things like that. And that is really, really helpful for sleeping well, again, like really shifting attention away. I felt there was one more thing. Oh yeah, of course. I am constantly waking up, hyperactivity. There was I think what I want to share here is that, there's nothing here that isn't actually very, very common. The jerking, the frequent dreaming, the light sleep, the absence, like all that is very common. I will make a playlist on like these kind of twitching, jerky leg moves and that at some point, that I hope will help you, Daniel. But I think all that I've talked about with Pooja and with Sophie, I hope that'll be helpful for you too, Daniel. Yeah. And then we will finish off with Jay here. Jay has been very, very engaged in the channel, and this is like, I don't know, maybe the 7th episode where I mention him, but I think it's actually really helpful here, because Jay, I think when I started, corresponding with him here, he said he was like 99% he had sporadic fatal insomnia, and that went on for a couple of months. And then maybe a week ago, he took like a sleeping pill and slept for 9 hours, and I told him, that's, I'm happy he slept, because that kind of is evidence that it's not fatal insomnia. And also important to know that his own body produced the sleep. It's always our own body that produces our sleep. Super important for sleep confidence. And then he wrote some here. This was just the other day, Sunday. I think I've had some improvement. I went to bed last night around 10 p.m. and slept until 8. I had a few drinks with a friend, which I think helped me fall asleep. But as I said, I think in the new year, if I'm still fine and able to walk and talk, I can say that I don't have fatal insomnia. Well, I think, I would say for somebody that has had trouble sleeping for a long time, slept for 9 hours the other week, now slept for like, 10 hours, like that is something to obsess about, to focus on, to overthink, to really be like, I can sleep. I can sleep. Even though maybe, alcohol played a role, maybe that, relaxed me a little bit, made me sleep, like my own body produced that sleep. So I think when it comes to sleep, any little improvement is super, super encouraging. So hold on to it. All right. Hope this was helpful to everyone that has contributed here. And I'm super, super grateful for all the comments, the messages, and all that. It really brings life to the channel, and I believe helps all the other people out there who have very similar concerns and questions. So with that said, we'll conclude here, and I'll be back with the full success story when it comes to Sheadon. And let's finish with this. Let's finish on a high note again here. Somebody named Bobby emailed me. I believe this must be at least 7 months ago. This was like around Insomnia Insight 100, maybe somewhere there, and had been told that he was depressed. He couldn't sleep, so he was depressed. But he said, I didn't feel depressed. So was I really depressed? And we went over some basic CBT, and he started doing a little better. And I got an email from him yesterday. Several months later, he's sleeping better, is off his medication. So I asked him, what really helped you. And I hope that will be another success story that we will share here shortly. So with that said, hope you have a really good night, morning, evening, whatever time it is there. And I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take it easy.